Hi, True Avatars, and welcome to your weekly queer video game podcast. This is episode 31, and I'm your host, Zoe Wild. I am a transgender and bisexual woman, and my pronouns are she, her. So, I'm actually really excited today to talk to you. It's just me this week, but I was lucky enough to get to try out the Nintendo Switch 2 today at Canada's only experience event. So Nintendo's been doing these like weekly, every weekend in different cities. They bring they're basically all these demo kiosks to various cities. Anyway, so there's one here in Toronto, and it was Canada's only one for the entire country. So I got to go. It was a lottery. I didn't get in on the first run, but I got in on the wait list at a random Sunday time. So today I just want to talk about that. I'll be entirely focused on that. I'll talk about the games I got to play, what the console's like, and some criticisms you're probably not expecting, and of course, some you're probably expecting, especially if you listen to last week's episode. And of course, next week I'll be back with news, what we've been playing, a feature segment, and queer game of the week. So all that good stuff will be back in our next episode 32. But before I jump into the Nintendo Switch 2 experience, I do have a few quick favors to ask of you. If you like this podcast, please consider leaving a comment or review on your preferred podcast platform. Leaving feedback not only helps with visibility, but it helps me know what you like and don't like about the podcast so I can improve it as I find my footing. Also, please follow True Avatars, a queer video game podcast on social media. There are accounts on Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and YouTube at True Avatars. And you can also find the podcast on the official website, trueavatarspodcast.com, all one word. There's also a Facebook page I've forgotten to mention in episodes past, but we do have a Facebook page. And remember, this is a weekly queer video game podcast, so check in every week. I aim to bring you news, interviews, and up-to-date discussions that are relevant to queer gamers, so you can check in on the world of gaming from a 2S LGBTQI+ lens. Okay, can you tell I'm a little overstimulated? I'm very hyper. Like I said, I literally just got back. I had a quick bite to eat. And that's pretty much, I drank some water and I just came back from the Intercare Center. So let's talk Switch 2. It was at the Intercare Center. When I got there, there was like a scheduled window for when you could show up. So my time was from 11:20 to 12:20, although they said you could get there 15 minutes even earlier, but I left a little late. My bus was a little slow. So I got there around 11:20, I think. So just in time, but I lined up. Once we got in through security, they gave us lanyards with two little cards on it. One was like a little badge that said you were an attendee, and the other was a badge that basically, like a piece of paper basically, that had 6 spots for quote unquote stamps. For which games you play. We were also given pink wristbands to denote which group we were, so that way they could tell basically like who we were, what time we came in, and what time we were supposed to leave. So I think there was about 48 of us. We all went in. The first thing we got to do after we waited in line for a little bit, I took a couple selfies. We went in, and there was like another kind of like waiting area. And they had like glass displays with like the console, the box, a few other things. I kind of skipped right past it because there was a guy behind that display who had the console in his hand. And like, I think everyone at this place could see the crazy look in my eyes. And you know what? I shouldn't say crazy, but I had it. You know what I mean? I had that like zany, wild look in my eye. And I think everyone could tell. So like, I think I was the third one in line to touch the console, to actually hold it. And to be honest, it was pretty cool. I'm kind of making that sound really silly, but basically what I got to do was like, it wasn't turned on or anything. It was just like a dummy console. The guy kind of showed me, here's all the buttons, here's where everything is, here's how the Joy-Cons attach on and off. And for the most part, when I say Joy-Cons, they are actually called Joy-Con 2s. The same way, like the DualShock, like for the PlayStation 2, the controller was called DualShock 2, not the DualShock. So I'll just be referring to it as Joy-Cons the whole time. But anyway, the new Joy-Cons, he showed us how to like connect them, disconnect them. So I grabbed the console. The first thing I did was, of course, I like held it in my hand. I saw how I felt how it felt. I looked at the guy and I said, this feels like a Steam Deck without less grip. It was about the same size as a Steam Deck, maybe slightly smaller. I thought it was still comfortable to hold, but it's still less comfortable than the Steam Deck if you've ever held one, because the Steam Deck is kind of built to have like grips around the back because there's no detachable controllers. But yeah, the size didn't really, maybe if you're really small, like you're like a little kid, or if you have smaller hands, my hands are pretty average size, even for a cis woman. So, and I'm trans obviously, but my hands are the same size as Nicole's. And they're just like, she's like maybe half a foot taller, shorter than me. So, anyway, so I have pretty average size hands. I feel like pre-transition my hands were small for a dude, quote unquote. But anyway, I didn't think the console was that uncomfortable to hold. I thought it was fine. It was a little bit bigger. It was a little bit nicer. Yeah, detaching the Joy-Cons and putting them back on is like really buttery smooth. It's just like the little button. It's like super easy to press. There's really no way to accidentally press it unless you're trying to. Like, it wasn't really in the way of other buttons, or it didn't really like sit anywhere where you might accidentally press it. So yeah, attaching, detaching, even though the console was off, it like worked perfectly. It was pretty awesome. So I don't think those magnets are battery powered, like people said before. I think they're just magnets. And yeah, when you press the button, I was holding the button the whole time. I didn't realize, and there's like little nodes that kind of push out, and they're those. When you press the button, it's mechanical. Like, it literally just like presses out a little like a little nub, and it pushes the Joy-Cons away from the console, detaching them. And so the other thing I was curious about is because on my OLED, okay, they changed the way from the original Switch to the OLED that the cartridge slot opens. And I looked at the guy and I said, like, hey, I really want to see how this works. Can I try opening it? And he kind of hesitated for a second, but he said I could try it. So anyway, I tried getting my nail in there because I've like broken so many nails trying to open up the OLED cartridge slot, and I couldn't open it. And then finally he grabbed it from me and he said, no, you pull it up from the other side. So instead of the top where the slot is, it's really hard to describe on a podcast without showing you, but it's actually from the opposite side of like, it's like kind of curved, and you grab it from the bottom and pull it up. And it's not just like a little flap. It actually has a little thing that holds like a little node that kind of like is attached to the like top thing that like keeps the cartridge inside. Obviously I didn't have a cartridge to try with it, but it was more or less very similar, but it was much easier to get the cartridge slot open with the little, there was like a little space to get your fingers under and actually pull the cover off, which was really nice. I know I've talked about this for a while, but I just wanted to like, this was something that really pissed me off about the OLED. I love the OLED. Okay. It's like one of the nicest handhelds Nintendo has ever made, but the cartridge slot is ass. So it was nice to see that it was a slight improvement. At least it won't break my nails every time, or at least I won't like risk scratching the top of the cartridge going in and out of it too, because that's also kind of a pain in the ass. Anyway, so after we got to try that, I only held it for like, I think I held it for less time than I've talked to you about it now. And then they told us, hey, so here's what's going to happen. You're going to go in. You're all going to demo Mario Kart for about 20 minutes. Then we're all going to demo DK Bonanza for about 20 minutes all together. And then you're going to get 90 minutes or so to go and play any games on the show floor, like on the, the many kiosks they had set up, and you can kind of go wherever you want. You might have to line up, but there'll be lots of games to play. So anyway, I'm going to kind of like go in order of the things that I did. But first I want to just quickly also talk about the event in general. So basically at every booth, at every kiosk, every game, there were multiple Nintendo reps there. And they did not have any new, for my Canadian listeners, they had no new Canadian pricing info. So I asked about the Welcome Tour price, because I know everyone's wondering about the Welcome Tour like demo game. And they said they had no new information for the pre-order price. They just said, yeah, it's $10 US. So make of that what you will. And of course, what I've noticed is that Nintendo is not across the board matching American currency conversion. So Tears of the Kingdom, our Canadian price is $115 before tax, but it should actually be $110 based on the US price, which is $90. So it should actually come out to 111 Canadian. So they've actually priced it up a little bit. So I'm not sure if, and I did check, 10 USD is supposed to be about 15 Canadian, but I have a feeling it's going to be probably closer to 20 for Welcome Tour. It's just a feeling I have. Plus the game is, anyway, I'll talk about the game. I played it. We'll talk about it later, but there's no new price information. There's also no new price information for, or no, not price information. There is price information for the GameCube controller. It's $84.99 Canadian. That wasn't at the event. That's just on the site. If you see the GameCube controller when you're recently viewed, you can see what the price is, even though it's not on the main page. But they didn't say at the event when the GameCube controller actually goes up for pre-order. You didn't give a date. I think the US date is May 13th, so I have to guess ours is probably the same, but they could not confirm. A little silly, given this is our only Canadian event. It would be nice if they could actually answer Canada-specific questions, but they couldn't, and they didn't. After the experience, we gave our wristbands back, like they cut them off us. We got to keep the lanyard with our stamp card. And the stamps, yeah, like I just said, I don't know if I actually mentioned this earlier, but they're just, they weren't actual stamps. They were, they wrote in Sharpie the game title each person at each kiosk or whatever. I thought it'd be cool to have stamps, but they weren't. So I didn't get those. But then when we left, though, when everyone left, we all got a free Switch 2 backpack. It's not a backpack that's designed to like in any special way to carry Switch stuff or Switch 2 stuff. It's just a branded backpack. It is very nice for a free backpack, but it wasn't anything like, yeah, this is your slot for your Switch 2. Here's your slot for your games, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. A couple other notes. They did have Hades 2 and Cyberpunk 2077. So 2 queer games were available for demoing. I'm a bad queer video game podcast host. I did not play either of them. I've never played Hades before. It's not really my jam. If I had known Hades 2 was actually going to be at the event, I might have picked up the original game to sample it so I could compare it, or at least understand what I'm doing when I go play, when I was able to go to this event. But I didn't. But I did walk by the booth. From what I could tell, it was like running at 60 FPS. It looked gorgeous. It might have even been 120. I'm not sure, but it was at least 60 FPS. It looked beautiful on the screens. So I don't think there's too much to worry about there, especially since it's going to be a console exclusive at launch on the Switch and Switch 2. So I didn't actually see the kiosk or station or whatever for Cyberpunk. So it literally didn't cross my mind until I left, and I thought, oh yeah, Cyberpunk wasn't there. Because I would have tried it actually, but I didn't see it. Because at the end I did have time for one third-party game, and I ended up picking a different game than Cyberpunk because I literally did not see Cyberpunk. I probably just missed it. I was overstimulated by the end too. So, also there were no demos for Pokemon Legends ZA, Kirby Air Riders, or Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. If they'd had any of those or all of them, especially Pokemon, security would have had to remove me by lethal force. So I'm glad they kind of didn't have those games because I probably would have spent the whole time just playing those. Anyway, yeah, so let's jump into the Switch 2 itself. I think I talked mostly about this already, but it feels similar to a Steam Deck, as I mentioned. Oh, okay, and here's stuff I didn't talk about before when I was talking about this, actually. So there's the Joy-Con grip, okay? So when you buy the Switch 2, and when you bought the Switch, it came with like a controller shell that holds the Joy-Cons. So you can pretend the Joy-Cons aren't just two separate controllers, but one combined controller. Kind of like when they're attached to the Switch, but like, again, with proper grips. Anyway, so it feels exactly the same as the previous Joy-Con grip. Like, there's no differences. However, I haven't seen anybody talk about this online anywhere. It has back buttons. The Joy-Cons do not have back buttons, but the back buttons that are on the Pro controller are also on the Joy-Con grip, which I thought was so cool. I looked at the demo guy and I said, like, whoa, there's back buttons on this thing. I was not expecting that. And he was like, oh yeah, I didn't notice. And I was like, anyway, so that's not a knock on the demo guy. It's just like Nintendo is really not, like, they haven't talked about the Joy-Con grip, and I guess it's so similar to the old one, it doesn't really matter that much. But like, I haven't even seen any comments on the charging grip or like anything to do with, yeah, just like that the fact that there's back buttons. Now, granted, I will say this though. I think the grip I was using was the charging grip that they sell separately. So the one that comes packed in with the Switch 2, I don't actually know if it's going to have the back buttons. But I think the charging one, the one that will actually plug in and charge your Joy-Cons while you're playing or while you're not playing, I think it's probably anywhere from $30 to $50, especially depending on your region. It will probably have the back buttons because I thought it was really cool, like a detail that Nintendo just kind of buried the lead on. So I had a very brief chance to flip a Joy-Con on its side. I didn't get to play with it. There was nothing really you could demo with it on its side. And it felt more or less the same amount of awkwardness like using a single Joy-Con, the original Joy-Con as a controller. You know, the SL, SR buttons, like the trigger buttons felt kind of the same to press. They're just as awkward. But the Joy-Con is a little bit bigger, so it's probably slightly more comfortable to hold. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about mouse mode later, because I played a bunch of games with mouse mode. I'm mixed on it still. I think it's a cool, in theory, concept, but again, it's not an actual mouse. Like, it's not. Anyway, get to it. So, the first game I got to play was Mario Kart World. And to be honest, I was not swayed one way or the other versus my thoughts last week on this game. It's Mario Kart, okay? It's Mario Kart. Like, it's polished, it's slick, it's good. If you want Mario Kart, it is more Mario Kart. So got to play a bunch of different ways. So when we got in, we were playing split screen. We were paired up, and if you didn't bring someone with you, I didn't. And so I was paired up with someone. We were playing split screen on the TV. Split screen, I think, ran at 60 FPS. I think it ran at 60 FPS. But however, my first thought looking at it was like, wow, it looks just as jaggy and kind of low resolution as Mario Kart 8 did. And I didn't clue until later because I was talking to my partner about it, the guy beside me, and I said, like, oh, it looks kind of jaggy and kind of crappy, like Mario Kart 8. Like, I don't understand why this is what we get out of the Switch. And then I clued in later that I was like, oh, of course we were playing split screen. Like, I didn't get it until I went later and you got to play solo on one TV by yourself, you know? So anyway, we played Grand Prix together. I think it was only 2 races. The guy even said, like, you're not going to notice when it changes. Like, he said a lot of people didn't notice when it changed courses. And to be honest, I didn't. There was no big, like burst of thing or anything. Like, I was just so focused on racing that, like, it's literally like one single race. And then the second part of the race is going to the next track. And then the third track is the third race. A little underwhelming, in my opinion, that you really couldn't tell when one course ended and the other began. But it is cool that you get to drive from one course to the other and see different things. We did get to grab the, the food baggies at each pit stop and, unlock new costumes and stuff. It was pretty cool. But aside from like a visual change that you stop noticing as soon as it happens, like, it was fine. I mean, again, like, you're picking your character because it's fun on the character select screen, but once your character's kind of in the race, you don't really notice them. So I think this is going to be something that people forget about as soon as they're playing the game. At least in regular races. And then, well, at that same station, after playing that Grand Prix and split screen, they had 2 switches that were handheld mode that you could grab. They took out all the stops, really, because like there was the switch connected to the TV, and then there was 2 switches attached, and every booth basically had 3 switches, which was super cool. When I say switches, of course I mean Switch 2. Anyway, so then we got to play Grand Prix in handheld mode, solo, so we weren't playing against each other. It was great. Like, it looked gorgeous. Like, I'm not gonna say that like it's a bad game. It's Mario Kart. Like, and also we were playing at 50cc, so it was a little slow. I was just kind of like, can we pick it up a little bit? I would have preferred 150cc for everything. I get it has to be accessible for everyone, though, so I'm going to kind of put that criticism aside because the full game will obviously have 150cc, and then you can play at whatever speed you want. Hopefully it has 200cc, but I think that remains to be seen if it has 200cc. And then to finish off, we went back to another Grand Prix in split screen on TV mode to finish. So we got to do 3 races, basically. And then we were all kind of ushered to a different section to play Knockout Tour and free roam. So this was where we we were all on our own TV with our own Switch. And that was where I clued in. I was like, oh, this game is actually gorgeous. Like, the 4K looks really nice. The HDR, the wider color gamut, all those bells and whistles that the PS5 has had since 2020. The Switch 2 now has. It was gorgeous. The open world, while we were waiting for the Knockout Tour to start, was like fine, I guess. There were a bunch of times I found stuff in the open world, and I don't know if like it was just turned off because it was like it's basically a loading screen, right? Like, you're only there to wait out for things. So it's not proper free roam. So I found a bunch of the coin switches that they teased in the direct where you run over like a flat coin block on the road. And nothing changed. Then there were coins already there in the overworld after it. So I tried driving on some of those, but I always fell off the track. I think auto accelerator was on by default. So it was really hard. I didn't even figure out that you could brake and reverse until I like held B down and forced my car to stop. If you can't properly stop in this mode, it will make it much less fun. That said, I think open world would be better for any kind of platformer or adventure game. Like, I still don't see what all the fuss is about this free roam. Like, yeah, free roam is cool and I'm glad it's there. I'd rather it be there than not. But again, if the only thing you're finding are Korok seeds, like these coin switches or whatever, like I still don't see what makes this game $110. Now, Knockout Tour was so much fun. I got eliminated in the first batch of people. I was like in first at one point, and then I got knocked back, and I got knocked back again. And at one point I caught up again, and then you're actually like racing for quite a bit before it knocks you out. So you have to be in the top 20 to survive. There's 24 racers. You have to be in the top 20. And I was in 19th, and I was like, oh crap, I gotta go. And then I got hit by a shell, and I got knocked into 21st place, and just at the last possible second, and I was knocked out. So I was there left watching the people beside me playing, but it was really fun. Something I did notice actually about while I was racing is that I haven't seen anyone talk about. I don't know if I've noticed it. I'm sure you can see it in some of the gameplay on YouTube or from the Nintendo Treehouse. But the blue shell doesn't fly anymore. It races on the ground, so it will hit people in front of you as it's racing to the person in first, which I thought was super cool. I got to try out the ice flower, which is basically the fire flower, but for ice. It's a new item, I think, or at least it's a returning item from a previous game. I didn't get the Mega Mushroom once, but I got ran over by it multiple times. What else? There was another item. Oh, I got the feather, and you can only use it once. So I was like, oh, I have the feather. Like, I thought it would be like the golden mushroom where you can like, the first time you press it, it like sets a timer, an invisible timer. And then I guess in this game, the timer is no longer invisible, but it gives you like a timer. And then you can press that jump button as many times as you would like with the feather. And no. And I forgot how to charge up jumps, so that didn't work either. But drifting felt good. Like to play it feels almost identical to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So if you're used to those controls, there is no difference. If you're used to the feel of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, there's no difference. Like I know going from like Wii to 3DS or DS to Wii, it felt very different playing those games. But as far as I'm concerned, Mario Kart 7 kind of locked down the way Mario Kart feels. And then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe just enhanced that. And Mario Kart 8 World, or Mario Kart World rather, sorry, has kind of further cemented that this is how Mario Kart is going to feel going forward. And I think that's great. I just don't think it's $110 great, but it's very good. Visually stunning. All the locations are great. I saw the Cataquacks. I forgot their name in a previous episode, but the little duckies from Mario Sunshine that flip you up annoyingly. I saw them back and my heart just warmed. Any Sunshine references are very nice to me, especially after the Mario movie kind of just said, Sunshine doesn't exist. So anyway, and the cup I played was Cherry Cup, and there were 8 cups unlocked, and I didn't see Rainbow Road because you can choose which cup you want, and then it kind of like does a roulette, like a vote at the, once everyone's chosen which cup they want to do. So there were 8 cups, and Rainbow Road was not in any of them, as far as I could tell from the quick look I got. Because my first thought was like, oh, is Rainbow Road unlocked? I would like to play Rainbow Road. And as far as I could tell, it wasn't. So when they showed off the cups in the Direct and in the Treehouse, there were 7 cups unlocked. So I thought the 8th cup would be the one with Rainbow Road, and it wasn't. So I think there's going to be more cups than just those 8. Maybe even if it's just 1 extra cup for Rainbow Road, or maybe Rainbow Road is its own separate thing. I don't know. But anyway. Just gonna take a sip of water here. I'm not gonna do too much editing on this podcast. It's the latest I've ever recorded a podcast, so I want to get it out. It's Sunday at 5:30 now, and I usually have it uploaded Monday morning, so it's gonna be a quick turnaround. After we were done Knockout Tour, we were ushered through the event, through the Entercare Center. And anyone who's ever been to the Entercare Center, it's the spot when you go to the CNE, the Canadian National Exhibition, and there's the sand sculptures, there's the flower contest. It was just that section, not the part with all the vendors in the grid formation and like with the books and the clothing stores and all that stuff. That part of the Entercare Center was not open. It was just like the entrance hall, basically, where the stuff was set up. It was actually pretty small from what I thought it was going to be, but still lots of stuff to do, and you didn't have to wait very long for stuff. But anyway, Donkey Kong Bananza was our next game. And again, it was like quote unquote mandatory. Like everyone was going to play it, which was nice because I didn't want to have to like choose between like Donkey Kong Bananza and Mario Kart, for example, versus like Metroid Prime 4 or Kirby. So in my opinion, the way the controller, like I couldn't back up too far because the demo people had to walk back and forth behind me. So I was pretty close to the TV and I found it very disorienting. The controls were hard to get used to, but once you were used to them, it felt great to play. Like the punching, the HD Rumble, or I guess the 4K Rumble in this case, or HD Rumble 2, I don't know what they're calling it. But it felt great to play, but it was so disorienting, like just being constantly moving through this world, especially underground. Yeah, just underground tunnels and stuff. Like it made me kind of feel motion sick. But the game is really fun. I kind of like rushed to get through the spots I'd already seen in the treehouse so I could go find new stuff. And I know it's a preset demo, so there's not like new stuff, but just like stuff I'd already personally seen. So I kind of rushed through that first opening area where like the cutscenes are. I skipped all the cutscenes because like you only had like 15-20 minutes to play, and like the cutscenes didn't pause your timer. So I skipped all the cutscenes. I'd seen them online already. Normally I would not skip a cutscene because I think the cutscenes were cool to watch, but other people didn't skip them. But I was like, no, I want to get to the gameplay because I don't have a lot of time. So I went, I got right to the next area where it's kind of like a sunny sublayer of the game. It almost looks like you're outside, but you're not. And so, yeah, I just kind of like clawed, dug, punched my way through the world. There are some enemies that you can't just punch. You have to like pick up some of the ground and create a boulder and throw the boulder at the thing to fight it. No matter what you were doing, you were always finding something, whether it was a banana or a fossil or coins or a treasure chest or another sublayer or an enemy or someone to talk to or a switch to press. Like there was lots of stuff to find. It was like, I would say it was even denser than Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, even though it's not open world like those games. It was denser than that. It was like always stuff to find. It was like I once called it the anti-Minecraft, and I still think it's like the anti-Minecraft. But anyway, so yeah, I got to try out the bomb rocks. Those were fun. So basically, like there's like bomb blocks that like you can like rip off, and then you can throw it at things to blow stuff up and unlock different parts of the world. And that's kind of where the platforming comes in. So those were really fun. It felt great. The HD rumble on it was really cool. There was like a mini boss that I fought to unlock like the next sublayer. It wasn't that challenging, but the getting used to the controls to do it were kind of the challenging part. But then I kept finding these like things you could do, like hand slaps on the ground with DK. And so there'd be switches everywhere. And I found 3 of these switches, which led to mini challenges, which took you to another little like mini world / arena. And so each of these places gave you 30 seconds to complete a challenge. So the first one I found was coin collecting. Like you just kind of punched your way through, collected a bunch of coins. I found another one that was like defeating 3 rock enemies. In fact, that might have been the first one, but you basically have to defeat 3 enemies. That was kind of fun. They did take a few more hits than I thought, and I was kind of like panicking, but I beat it just in time. And the third one was like these little buggy enemy things. I don't know what they were called. I didn't look it up. But you know, you have to fight a bunch of them and defeat a bunch of them. And if they stick to you, kind of like those ones in Astrobot that stick to you and then blow up, you have to like punch them off you and like shake them off you and then punch them. So it's very Astrobot-like in that sense for that one. There was also, I noticed, I don't think I saw this in any of the demos or gameplay footage I've seen, but you can find apples in the ground that are health, like regain your health for you. And that was pretty much it for Donkey Kong Bonanza. I'm really excited for this one. This is the kind of game that I think you need more than like a 15 to 20 minute demo to experience and enjoy. I think this is going to need like a 1 to 2 hour like demo. So if you've got like a friend that has it, go over to their house and like test it out, you know, that kind of thing, like, or watch some gameplay online. But it really is the kind of game that you need to play it to experience it. And I think it's my most excited launch window game. The launch window game I'm most excited for. And it's still the case. Like Mario Kart World looks great, sure, but I wish Donkey Kong Bonanza was available on June 5th instead. Okay, so next up, we were given like free play time for 90 minutes. So next I went up, I saw a spot open for Metroid Prime 4. I made a beeline for it. And yeah, it was fine. I started playing Metroid Prime Remastered a few weeks ago in anticipation that I didn't want to look like a complete loser being bad at this game, and I still was, unfortunately. But anyway, it's Metroid Prime. It's Metroid Prime. Gameplay wise, like it's exactly what you expect it to be. Obviously, Samus is, you know, it's the opening scene, right, that you play. So, you know, you're defeating the space pirates and you fight a boss, and then, you know, Samus gets whisked away to another planet, and then she gets her, you assume she gets her psychic powers. So visually, I want to talk about visuals for this because I don't think it looks like it. Obviously, it looks better than the Switch version is going to look. Like it's going to have a better resolution. It's going to have a better frame rate. There is no doubt about that. It still looks like an up-resed Switch 1 game. So if you're planning to, unless frame rate is your deal or you want some nice HDR, like there's still jaggies. It's still like clearly an upscaled Switch game. So like don't worry too much if you can't play this on the Switch 2. Like it will run fine on Switch 1. Presumably at 60, although I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think it runs at 60. So unless you want 120 FPS or you want HDR, like I don't think the 4K resolution did anything for it really. Like it was fine, but it wasn't anything to write home about. In fact, I'm going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom later too. But the gameplay felt nice. This is where I finally got to try out mouse mode. So this is the thing. At first, I fucking hated mouse mode. I was like, this is awful. I'm never going to use this. Like it's seamless. Like you want to play mouse mode, you want to pick up the controller and play normally. Like you don't have to press anything. You just pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. It's so seamless. And the demo guy who was breathing down my neck was like, and he was kind of backseat driving a little bit. It was a little annoying. But at times he also helped me and reminded me like, hey, you have health items over there. You can like, you know, grab and whatever. So I'm bad at this game. But at first mouse mode was like, I couldn't get the hang of like, cause like you're still moving with the control stick on your left hand, but your right hand is the mouse mode. So you're like looking around and aiming with it and you're still pressing all the same buttons, but you're now like, you're like right control stick, which is used for camera control, is now being used for the mouse. So it was like disorienting at first. It was really hard to get used to. But then once I got to the boss and I was using those, like I had to use those controls. It was so much easier to use those controls than it was because the Z locking, I felt like it didn't work for everything. It didn't work for the boss. It didn't work for, there's doors you have to like scan to open. And then once you've scanned, you have to shoot them. And so it wasn't Z locking to the stuff that you had to like really precisely aim at. So that's when I realized mouse mode was going to come in handy because it gave me much more precise aiming. And then right at the end of the boss fight, I was so turned around in terms of perspective. Like I couldn't see the boss and I was like 1 or 2 hits away from defeating him. And so I was like, I need to reorient myself, and I couldn't do it with mouse mode. It just wasn't working. So I picked up the controller, and then I found myself trying to aim with the gyro or like a Wiimote to aim my right controller. And I realized I had become, in that 5 minutes, so used to mouse mode that I was like, I can't not go back to it. So actually, I was down on mouse mode at first, but actually I think mouse mode is great. I think it'll still be disorienting and take some getting used to, but I think if I do play Metroid Prime 4 on Switch 2, I'll probably be playing with mouse mode. But I might be waiting for a sale on Metroid Prime 4 because like it's good. It's really good, but games are so expensive now. And this is going to be, well, the Switch version is going to be $100 for sure. Like I think $90 or $100. And then I think the Switch 2 version is going to be $10 to $15 to $20 more in Canada. Because like it's a $10 price increase in the US, which means it's a $15 to $20 price increase in Canada. I think it should be a $10 price increase here personally. It's just resolution, like calm down, right? But at least there is an upgrade path. Okay, so the next game I want to talk about, because this game turned me around completely on my initial thoughts. And that game is Dragon Drive. This is the wheelchair basketball Rocket League clone. This game is awesome. Nintendo has underrated it. They have undersold it. And the visuals, it's not like the visuals are not, I'm not going to lie, the visuals are drab. They're not helping it. It is not colorful. It looks like some neo-noir, tech demo. Like it looks like they haven't finished the assets, but they finished the gameplay. But the gameplay is so cool. I remember when we talked about this in the bonus podcast episode, 27.5. Go back and listen to it if you want, where we talked about this in Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, like the big reveal from a few weeks ago. And we all just kind of thought, like, this kind of looks lame. Like, it would be great to have some great representation for disabilities in video games, but this might not be it. And if Nintendo could just get those visuals polished to looking colorful or at least exciting or enticing in some way, this game is so fucking cool. Okay, so everything I've heard online about it is that it's exhausting to play. It's hard to get used to. And yes, this is all very true. These are not invalid criticisms. However, the way it controls feels like as close to actually playing wheelchair basketball as a video game could, because you're playing only in mouse mode and you have to literally drag the controllers across the surface in front of you in big sweeping motions, like rolling a wheelchair at your side. So yeah, it's physically demanding because that's what it's like to drive a wheelchair. And I'm going to admit, I've never ridden in a wheelchair. So I can't speak for this entirely, but I have to imagine that like this is the closest it would be. And yeah, my arms were tired by the end of it, just as your arms would be tired if you were like controlling a wheelchair. So yeah, I just thought it was so cool. Like it just like the brakes, the way everything worked, the turning, you lift up your Joy-Con and like flick your wrist to shoot the ball. Like it felt like playing wheelchair basketball. And yeah, it's like hard to turn. It's hard to steer. It's hard to do all these things. But like the only time I felt like something wasn't working was when it was like my fault for misunderstanding the controls. Cause like Nintendo really thought about how well this controls. And like, if they could just add some personality to this, it would do so well. It's so cool. Yeah. I did try so they give you a table, you sit down. I can't imagine playing this game standing. I can't imagine playing this game with a very small surface area. I tried moving the mouse on my leg because they tell you try it on your leg, right? On your jeans. So I tried it. And, like you just don't, because like the game tells you too, like you can move farther by moving the controller further in front of you. So I did. And I don't feel like you can't get that experience on a small surface. So like, I think this game is going to be inaccessible for people, despite it being a game that like encourages accessibility. It's a weird conflicting take on this game, but so cool. I was having a lot of fun with it actually. Now, when I was in the demo area and I was moving on my own pace, like it was really fun. When I got to the game, I was terrible at it because I could never turn properly. But always it felt like I was like, okay, am I doing something wrong, or is the game just like not controlling well? And generally, it was always my fault. It's just a very, very hard game to get the hang of. But I think that's intentional. Unfortunately, I think that's also going to lock a lot of people out because a lot of people are going to try it for 10 minutes and go, this is hard, or I have to use my entire coffee table or desk to use this. So I think it'll just be a bit of a challenging sell for Nintendo. And the fact that it has no personality, like a visual style when I say personality, is hurting it. So Nintendo needs to figure that out. If they have to delay it like another few months, I think they should, because they need to give it some kind of personality. And maybe there's going to be another direct where they reveal all this stuff and this is just like a test demo. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was really great. I think people are undersold, like this game is being undersold to people. And I think people are sleeping on it. And I think this is one that people should be talking more about because it's really, 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 really cool. Next, I got to play Tears of the Kingdom, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom for exactly 2 minutes. That sounds weird to you. It's because I jumped into someone else's previous demo that they hadn't, like every time you played a game and you started the quote unquote the demo, there's an invisible timer that was going on. Some games were 10 minutes, some were 15, some were 20. Or some were just like when you get to the end of, this level, it like time runs out or like the demo ends. For Tears of the Kingdom, it's just like it's set 10 minutes, do whatever you want. They gave you different save files for different points in the story. I chose the farthest one. Basically, I had all the stuff unlocked, but it was just so I could go anywhere I wanted. And so I guess the person who was playing before me left before their demo time was up. So I just jumped right into it. And yeah, like I only got to play for 2 minutes, but it worked out because I wanted to go play something else after. I just literally wanted to see what the frame rate was like. I wanted to see what the 4K was like in the HDR. Okay, in this game, 60 FPS is a game changer. It is gorgeous. It is what the game should have. 30 FPS was fine. I played it 130 hours of this game in 30 FPS. It's fine that way. 60 FPS though is great. The higher resolution is only okay. Like Metroid Prime 4, like there's jaggies, like it's clearly a Switch 1 game up-resed, so it's fine. The HDR is gorgeous. Like the colors, the wider color gamut, like all that stuff, like it looks great. If you have never played this game before, or you don't own this game, or you're going to play it again on Switch 2, like from like start to finish, like this, pick it up on this console. Like this is the way to play it for sure. If you've already played it, don't think it's worth it. The loading times were a lot faster. Those are the one of the things that I could try out. In fact, and the load times, yeah, it was only 5 seconds when I like fast traveled, but still, I felt 5 seconds was still too long for a game like this on a system like this. So yeah, even though I wasn't staring at the loading screen for very long, it still felt too long. I don't know. Maybe I've been playing too much PS5. I don't know, but this is definitely not next gen Zelda. I will say that much. It's not a next gen Zelda game. It's not a placeholder for a next gen Zelda. If Nintendo builds a brand new Zelda from the ground up, it will look 10 times better than this. And I'm very excited for whatever that game looks like. Next, I ran over to play some Mario Party Jamboree. The Bowser TV or the Jamboree TV or the Bowser Live, whatever it was called. Bowser has everyone, he's on stage and he's talking to people and he's like doing mini games and stuff. It was really fun. It was very tiring. It's a very physical version of Mario Party. So, normally Mario Party is just like pressing buttons or shaking controllers, whatever. You're sitting down. This time you have to stand up. We all had to be positioned very precisely in front of the Nintendo Switch camera to actually show up on screen, because then we all, popped out of warp pipes. When you're standing in the right spot, it works perfectly. If you move even slightly out of that position, it's very hard for the game to pick up where you are. And that's where I'm like, oh, so it only looks like it works amazingly. It doesn't work amazingly. And we were so cramped and close together that I was like, if there was any slight movement outwards required, I would have like hit people by accident. So, but anyway, so this Bowser Live thing that we did, Bowser's on stage and our images popped out of warp pipes and, we can like wave, we can like shake around. The angle that Switch 2 camera was dysphoria inducing. Like I looked tall and gross, but it was cool to see myself up on the TV. Yeah, if you're going to play this at home though, like you need a well-organized space, clear, no obstructions, with a good spot for the camera to go. But the mini games themselves were pretty fun. Like they were very simple. First one was like you literally just raise your arms and you each have one joy, like every person has one Joy-Con, but it's like, tracking your arms, and you punch up and hit coin blocks, and whichever team got the most coins won. And then the second one was Goom balancing. So a bunch of Goombas fell, and you stood upright, and you had this like plate on your head, and you were supposed to catch Goombas. I was bad at this. And then the third one was cheering for Bowser. Bowser wanted you to cheer and wave your arms, and whoever made more noise and waved their arms more won. It was fun. It was very short. I think they had other demos for different mini games that are part of the Switch 2 exclusive DLC pack, but I only got to try this. I'm glad I didn't go to try the others, because like Mario Party is Mario Party. It's going to be fun. The base game is already so good though, so if you only just want the Switch 1 base game Mario Party, like you're fine. If you're gonna to get this, you have to buy the game or get the DLC as well, plus the Switch 2, obviously, if you don't already have the Switch 2. And then you have to buy into the camera if you don't already have a USB-C camera in your, like a webcam in your apartment or your house or wherever. So the buy-in is a little steep if you don't have any of the stuff to make it work. But if you do, I think it's worth the $20, $30, whatever it is upgrade. For lots more party stuff to do, because I think it'll be really fun with friends. Like any Mario Party is, basically. Okay, I don't want to be talking forever because it's really hard to talk by myself. My voice is starting to go, especially since I had to speak really loud at the demo event. So my voice is starting to go. So I'm sorry if I start to sound a little croaky, but I'm going to try to get through these next few things. So Amy Lynn actually messaged me right before the event and said, maybe you can convince me whether or not I should buy Welcome Tour, which is the Switch 2, the game that should be a pack-in, but it's not, right? It's like the game where you're running around on the Switch console itself, and you're talking to little NPCs that talk to you, to explain to you how the Switch works, or you play little demos or mini games. So you could only play the mini games that were in the demos and that kind of stuff that were in the Treehouse and the Nintendo Direct. Everything they showed off there is the only things you could play. There's nothing new. You couldn't go anywhere and do anything. You were pretty locked to just the Switch screen, only half the Switch screen actually, because if you first thing I did was, as soon as I could go on the Switch screen from the first Joy-Con, was I ran across, because I was like, oh, that's a mini game I haven't seen anyone else playing. I want to go play that. And as soon as I got there, the demo guy was, I pressed A and they said this is not available in the demo. And the demo guy was like, yeah, you can't play that yet. It's not unlocked. And I was like, it's not unlocked for the demo, rather. Because you were unlocking things as you went, but this was literally not unlocked for the demo. So I was a little disappointed that I couldn't just kind of but looking around, you could see there's more than just the screen. It looks like a whole city of stuff to find. You can go on the dock, you can go on the Joy-Cons, you can probably find other accessories. I feel the camera is probably there too. So there's lots of stuff to find, but also, anyway, so before I get to my I was about to make my final thesis point thing before moving on, but I was getting ahead of myself. So, despite the world being big, yeah, I was pretty limited to where I could go. The mini games themselves are pretty fun. The tech demos themselves are kind of shit. So the mini games, there's one where you're in mouse mode, and you are, I think, a shell, and you're dodging spiky things coming down across the screen. And you got to move the mouse around to move the shell around to avoid those things. It's really fun, very challenging. There's different versions of that game that are more challenging with more objectives to play. I kind of gave up on it because I'd already seen other people playing it, and I wanted to move on to other things. There was also the Mario Kart, not Mario Kart, sorry, Super Mario Bros., the original one. They put that game, how do I explain this? It's window boxed, so it's very small on your screen. It's trying to explain to you what 4K resolution actually looks like compared to the original Mario. And so you start in a little box on the screen, and as you open up the level, it shows the whole level across the screen. And when you're done, it goes from left to right side of the screen, and the whole level is there. And it's kind of showing you how big 4K resolution is, how much detail there really is, that the original Mario Bros. World 1-1 is so tiny on this screen, which is cool, but also really, really hard to see what you're doing because it's so small. And if you're like me and you look at anything that's window boxed like that with a black box around it, you get motion sick. And I get a migraine. So I wouldn't be playing that for very long. And every minigame or tech demo had little things, little objectives. But yeah, the tech demos were kind of silly. One was oh, here's some fireworks, shoot off some fireworks, and then turn off HDR, turn on HDR to see what the difference is. And all it really did was reveal some detail in the highlights. So the game does encourage you to play these mini games and to explore and unlock things and get high scores, right? There's things to find. I think this demo would be great if you've never played a 4K video game console in your life. If you don't have a PC or a PS5 or an Xbox Series console, or you didn't have a PS4 Pro, or you didn't have whatever the Xbox One version was that had, maybe it was the Xbox One X that had 4K support. I'm not sure. Anyway, I think this game is great for people who maybe, like I said, haven't played any 4K consoles before and don't understand what HDR is, don't understand what wider color gamut is. They don't understand, what 4K resolution really looks like. I think if you don't know any of that stuff, this is great for you. Or if you really just really, really love like silly little tiny mini games with like little objectives to do. But if you don't have any interest in the mini games and you know what 4K looks like off the PS5 already, like this is not worth your time. I still think no matter who you are, it's still less fun than Astro's Playroom. So, and that was free. That was a free demo on PS5, which is basically an entire 3D platformer. And this is just like, it's a welcome manual with some mini games. I don't think, like it's an interactive manual. I don't think it's worth the price that it's going to be. In Canada, it's probably going to be $15 to $20. And I think that's ridiculously steep, overpriced, and greedy on Nintendo's part. I think this should be free. If it was free, I would have no problem saying like, yeah, go play this game if it's on your Switch at launch. Okay, so next was another game I played for 2 minutes because something else opened up afterwards. But I got to play the GameCube, and I didn't play the GameCube for 2 minutes, or the GameCube NSO rather. I only played it for 2 minutes because something else opened up afterwards. It wasn't like I jumped into someone's demo that was already going. Like I started from scratch, fresh. I booted up Wind Waker, and it looks fine. I was already playing the HD version on Wii U a few weeks ago, and I don't think this game holds this up-res version on NSO holds a candle to it. The controller itself, it was the GameCube NSO controller. It's very light. It doesn't have much weight, very similar to the N64 controller. Like it almost feels too light. Maybe slightly lighter than the original GameCube controller, which was already pretty light, but that had a cable attached to it. And I've only ever held a Wavebird once or twice, but it felt lighter than the Wavebird, which is cool. But if you're expecting some weight, like you might have to add your own. For Wind Waker, it was the opening area, so like Outset Island or whatever, where your grandma's house is. So I did a little bit of running around. I changed the default camera controls, which was confusing because the guy had me press the same buttons like 12 times before I figured it out anyway, I don't know if it was my fault or his, or if it's just bad design on Nintendo's part, but it was very confusing. But anyway, so I got the hidden rupees under Link's grandma's house. And then I also threw a pig into the lady's garden who wanted a collection of pet piggies. And then I decided, you know what? I've played Wind Waker and I've played it better on the HD version. So I'm going to go jump into F-Zero, which I haven't played in 20 years. And I've only played it once or twice. I think I rented it from Blockbuster way back in the day, and I was bad at it, so I didn't enjoy it. But it's like, you know what, I'll go play. And of course, the first thing I do when I boot into the game, the guy says, yeah, it has widescreen support. And I was like, right. So we went in, we turned on widescreen, and I loaded into a race. And as soon as I loaded into a race, I looked to my right, and the Kirby demo was open. And I was like, you know what, I gotta go play Kirby. So I left the controller, I put the controller down, I went to play Kirby. And now I'm going to talk about Kirby because like it's GameCube NSO. It's exactly what you expect from the other consoles, but for GameCube. So for me, it's going to be about the games. Like once they have Pokemon and Kirby Air Ride, and what else was on there? Mario Sunshine, although I have Mario Sunshine, although I would like to see if they give it widescreen support so I can play 4K widescreen, which will look slightly better and control slightly better with a GameCube controller over the 3D All-Stars version. But we'll see. Kirby, though. So I have in my notes here, like, yes, so good, so cute. It was Kirby and the Forgotten Land is one of my favorite 3D platformers. And to be clear, when I say Kirby, it's not Air Riders. It was 3D. It was Forgotten Land. And so I love this game on the Switch 1. Does it visually look amazing? No, it has some performance problems. But this game, I was only playing the DLC, so I can't speak to how well the base game is optimized. But it had 60 FPS, it had HDR, it had wider color gamut. It was gorgeous to look at, so pretty, so cute, so charming. And the one thing I did notice is that enemies off in the distance didn't have a lower frame rate that got higher as you got closer to them. You might even remember Pokemon Legends Arceus had the same problem. So it didn't have that issue, which was really nice. So as far as I'm concerned, it's the best. Like this didn't look like an upscaled Switch 1 game. There was no point where I was looking at this and saw jaggies. There was like, this looked like if you had told me this was a Switch 2 game, I would have believed you. Again, I can't speak for the base game, but I played the first level of the DLC and the gameplay is fun. It's more of the same. If you like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, you will like this. the base game. It's the levels are exactly the same as the base game with new objectives to do, but it's like, you're finding secret paths, you're saving secret like little creatures, right? You got to find 3 of them in every level. You've got to beat mini bosses. There's obviously some new elements like visuals. There's Spring Kirby. Spring Kirby is super fun to control, bouncing around the level. It's great. Spring Kirby is not in the base game, but it's mouthful mode, right? Where he sucks up a spring and then he becomes a spring. So there's like lots of high jumps to take advantage of it, and you ground pound as well. Unfortunately, there are more building turtles to crush, which is not very nice, unfortunately. But to get through the level, you do have to kill the turtles. So I did. And Kiwi, my pet turtle, I'm very sorry. Didn't mean to hurt turtles. But anyway. Yeah, so it's the same though. The levels are conceptually the same. You enter the level, you find collectibles, you beat bosses, you find hidden creatures. But this was, of all the games that were Switch 1 games ported to Switch 2, or older games that were ported to Switch 2, this was my favorite. I could not tell that it was a Switch 1 game. Like, I knew that, obviously, but again, like, it was so pretty and so well enhanced that it looked like if you had told me this was a brand new Switch 2 game, I would have believed you. You could sell it that way for sure. And of all the games too, I might actually pick up a physical copy of this complete on cartridge to have as a collector's item, because the other games I can't justify. They're too expensive. And yeah, it's 115 Canadian for Kirby, so I'll have to save up for it. But of all the games that they're doing this for on Switch 2, this is the one I want because it was so great. And I love this Kirby game. It's so good. I've been waiting so many years for a 3D Kirby game. And they gave us that, and it was amazing. And then they've given us a better version, enhanced version of it with extra content. So I'm super hype. Finally, I got to play one more game. I think I was already over time when I started playing this game. But anyway, I got to play Split Fiction. So Nicole and I did play Split Fiction before. I'm not going to talk too much about what it's like to play it on Switch in terms of like the game itself. Like, I've already talked about what I think about the game. It's the same game on Switch too, as it is on PS5. The visuals are a little bit worse. I think the frame rate is still 60 FPS for both players. The only thing is that like the resolution is a little bit crappier, just like a tiny bit, especially in some cutscenes and some close-ups and some sections. But there was no frame rate dips as far as I could tell. The demo itself was the first area of the sci-fi section. You're playing a small area up that leads up to the Mr. Hammer boss fight. So where he throws a hammer at Zoe and Mio, and then Mio has to break the hammer, and then Zoe has to grab the hammer, and she has to hit Mr. Hammer, this like flying boss dude. So if you are only going to own a Switch 2, or you don't have a PS5 or any way to play the game on other consoles, this is a perfectly acceptable way to play the game. It will be great. It will work. Again, it won't be as visually gorgeous or stunning as the PS5 version, but it will do the job more so, and it looks better. Split Fiction, the Switch 2 version of Split Fiction looks better compared to the PS5 version than the It Takes Two Switch 1 version looks to its PS4 version, if that makes sense. Like, it's more one-to-one for Split Fiction than it was for It Takes Two versus its two versions, if that makes sense. So, just gonna take another swig of water here. I'm almost out. And my voice is about to go, so I'm sorry. But that was it. Yeah, I played, and then at that point, the person I was playing with said like, "Oh yeah, your time is up. You're a pink wristband. You gotta go." So then I headed out. I got my backpack. They cut off the wristband, and I headed straight home. Overall thoughts: it's visually, it's not as groundbreaking as the Switch, as the PS5. Sorry, it's much more groundbreaking than the Switch, obviously, but it's a Switch. All I'll say is like it's a Switch, but better. It's not going to blow your mind. Most of the new features, like the mouse mode, you're probably never going to use unless a game gets you to use it. So that, again, that'll depend on the software. But like, if you just want a better Switch experience, this is it. It's exactly what you're getting. It's exactly what it says on the package. Whether or not you think Nintendo should be innovating more or less because of it, whatever. But if you've been waiting since 2020 when those Switch Pro rumors came out, you want your Switch Pro, this is your Switch Pro. I will say, I don't think any of the launch window games are so good that you need to like let your FOMO take over you. Like, obviously, if you want one, go get one. I'm not going to say don't. But if you're like hesitant or you're like on the fence, I recommend just waiting until there's more stock available, or there's a game you want to play where it's worth fighting the crowds or the scalpers or the lines online, like at Best Buy and Walmart or wherever. You know, like if you're like, hey, I don't need to play Mario Kart World or DK Bonanza at launch, but I really want to play Kirby Air Riders. Wait for Kirby Air Riders, because at the end of the day, like, it's a Switch. The software is what is going to speak more than the console itself, right? So, you know, and unless there's a handful of games, there are a handful of games from the Switch 1 that are enhanced, but for the most part, all the games on Switch 1 are going to look exactly the same. So, like, for example, I'm waiting to play Echoes of Wisdom. I started playing it on Switch 1, but it's going to run at 60 FPS with better performance and just like general frame rates from individual enemies on Switch 2. So I'll probably be playing that there. So if you were like, say, hey, I really want to Switch 2 and I really want to play Echoes of Wisdom, then yeah, go pick up Switch 2 to play Echoes of Wisdom, because that upgrade is free. But if you're like, hey, I don't need to play Echoes of Wisdom at 60 FPS or with better visuals, like wait. I don't let your FOMO get the better of you if you're on the fence. But if you were sitting on the other side of the fence and you don't want this console, like, yeah, it's exactly what you think it is. You're completely justified. But if you really want to have this console like I do, then you're completely justified. Everything you thought you knew from the Direct, from Treehouse, from everywhere else. And I've been talking about the Treehouse the whole time. It's Nintendo's like gameplay demos they put on YouTube. That's what the Treehouse is. Everything your expectations are exactly where they should be, no matter what they are, because it's a Switch 2. It is the Switch again, So, yeah. And yeah, if you have any questions for me, or you have any thoughts, or you also went to an experience and you have some comments, please leave them on social media, leave them on the podcast platforms where they let you leave comments. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me, I think. June 5th. I'm excited for June 5th. I'm excited to get my hands on this console and play. I'm hopeful that I did get the Mario Kart bundle. I pre-ordered it this week. I'm going to talk about it more next week. I got the Mario Kart bundle. I'm not sold on whether I'm going to keep the digital code or sell it. But $70 for a digital code, I think, is worth it for a game that I don't need to have physical. I think the game at $70 is more than worth it, 70 Canadian. But the game at $110 Canadian is not worth it, in my opinion. I don't think they did anything in this entire the increased prices on the Switch too. I don't think they've justified those prices for me. I'm just like caught up in the hype, and I already wanted a Switch 2 and some of these games, so I'm willing to kind of pay for them. But I don't think they've exactly said like these are worth more than PS5 games, in my opinion. But anyway. And that just about wraps up this week's show. Thanks to your avatars for joining me for another episode of your Queer Video Game Podcast. If you've made it this far into the episode, I really appreciate you taking the time to support queer-made content, which is a big deal. If you want to support the show, it would be really great if you could leave a rating, review, or comment on your preferred podcast platform. I welcome you to check out the website, trueavatarspodcast.com, all one word. That's trueavatarspodcast.com. You can also find the show on Blue Sky, Threads, and YouTube under the handle @trueavatars, all one word, and on Instagram under trueavatars. Importantly, if you or anyone you know is queer and involved with video games in some way, please don't be shy. I would love to hear from more queer voices in video games. Your voice is unique, invalid, and worth sharing with the world. And if you don't want to be on the show or know anyone who's interested, but you know about a cool queer video game or games industry story that's queer related, please let me know. The show's official email is trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. That's trueavatars.podcast@gmail.com. You can also feel free to reach out via the website or the aforementioned social media pages. Things are tough out there, and queer people need to stick together when we can. Bye, True Avatars. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking with you all again next week. Take care and stay safe.